Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I've been putting out more informational based videos than prepping videos. However, remember last year when we talked about how the price of oil was going to go up because oil-based crops were having a bad year. And here we are 6 or so months later with cooking oil being one of the food items that has gone up in price the most. I honestly feel that it is very important for us to stay informed of what is happening, not only here in the US, but abroad, because what happens in other nations surely has the ability to affect us here. I am going to try to keep these videos short and to the point, and will not do a video just to do one, but because I feel it is something that we can benefit from as far as gaining knowledge in order to be better prepared for the future. An agricultural disaster is being blamed due to a frost blast that decimated French vineyards and may slash total wine output by 1/3. Now I know, ladies and gentlemen, that wine is probably not on top of our priority list, but this just shows the times that we're in. We are going through some climatic changes of all sorts around the world, and these changes have a very big probability of affecting greatly our crop supplies, not only here in the US, but all over the world. And just ask yourselves, what would that mean if these climatic changes, these weather events, continue to occur and continue to affect our food supply? Earlier this month, French farmers fought Mother Nature in their attempt to prevent frost from wiping out their crops. It appears that their attempts have failed, as the damage is extensive and could wipe out nearly 1/3 of French wine output for the year. In early April, French farmers scrambled to light controlled fires across their vineyards to stave off frost. And here you can see a farmer tending to a burning bale of hay, just trying to keep his grapevines from dying, ladies and gentlemen. And the thing is yes, this is just grapes, right? Some people may say, this is just grapes, we can live without grapes. But that's not the point. The point is that what if it's not? What if these frosts keep occurring? You know, here in Alaska, this is the first year since I've been here where the snow will not completely melt off before the end of April. Today is the 23rd of April, and usually by this time, almost every year by this time, all of the snow is gone. And look at the extent by which they're going in order to try to keep their crops from freezing. Not only is this very labor intensive, ladies and gentlemen, but just imagine how much it's costing these farmers just to do this, just to have a hope of their crops not freezing. The French government declared the frost an agricultural disaster and planned to provide financial support to farmers. Every time I see this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm like, what's financial support going to do? For those of you that follow the Ice Age farmer, he has a famous saying that I love to steal, which is, governments can print money, but they can't print food. You can give these farmers all the money you want to give them, but it's not going to fix the problem. The problem is that we're going through a cycle where the weather is going to be more erratic. It's going to change around. One day it might be really hot. The next day it might be freezing. Some areas may be in really heavy drought, and some areas may be too wet to plant. We're going through a cycle that we have to prepare for. Several hectares of farming land were heavily impacted by the frost. The agriculture minister said that the frost blast was a completely exceptional situation, resulting in substantial losses. And the exact losses are unknown at this time, but fresh estimates this week by the Farm Office warns at least 1/3 of the country's 2021 wine production could be affected. Yor Giblin said frost damage would be more apparent by the end of the month. He estimates wine output could decrease by 28 to 32% below average volumes for recent years. This frost was something exceptional, both in the fact that it spread so far south and that it was so widespread. He said that adding that the damage was exacerbated by warmer weather earlier in the growing season and accelerated plant growth. So look at that. That's like a double whammy, ladies and gentlemen. Like I was saying before, we're going to have times where the weather is really warm and then it's just going to flip and get really cold. And that's exactly what he said. He pretty much said that earlier in the year was really nice and warm, so it allowed these plants to flourish, to do really well. And then as they were doing really well, a freeze came through and wiped out a third of them. These things have happened throughout history, ladies and gentlemen. Weather patterns are going to change. They are going to become more dramatic. And you're going to see things happening in places around the world where they never happened. Like, for example, again, I bring it back to Alaska. This was the warmest winter that we've had since I've lived here. Now, I've only lived here about 6 years or so. Okay, not that long. However, still, this is the warmest winter we've had since I've lived here. And I've talked to people that have lived here a lot longer than me. And they said this is the warmest winter that they've had. But in other places, like Texas, look at what happened in Texas. They got a winter storm that they were not expecting. And I think they got 2 of them, but they were probably a little bit better prepared for the second one. But they got a winter storm that they were not expecting, that you know, in recent history they had not had. And look at all the havoc that it caused there. And the weather, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what country you are, where you're from. It doesn't care. What's going to happen is going to happen. So I do believe that governments, instead of trying to go with this green stuff that they're going with, that maybe they ought to start preparing our infrastructure for a colder future. I do believe that in China, I read an article a long time ago, probably more than a year and a half ago, I'm thinking. But in China, they're building greenhouses like there's no tomorrow. I think we ought to start thinking about doing the same, not only on a personal level, but on a national level. Meaning that instead of the government giving $7,500 tax credits so that people can buy a Tesla, maybe they ought to start giving people a credit on greenhouses, on planting equipment or farming equipment. Maybe they ought to start doing that. Maybe they ought to start providing some education for people to learn how to garden, raise chickens, instead of doing the opposite. And to end it off here, it just says that a decline in French wine output would certainly suggest bottles from the country are about to experience a price surge. Wow, act surprised, ladies and gentlemen, as supply chain constraints become realized. This is just a sign of the times, ladies and gentlemen. This right here, you see, I said I wasn't going to make this video long, but I'm going to try to make it quick. But I have a point to make. You see, prepping is not preparing for the end of the world. Prepping is not to fight off marauders. Of course, you know, in the very worst of circumstances, you want to be prepared for self-defense and all of those things. But prepping is not to, like, you know, fight off zombies and things like that. Prepping is to make it through events like this. That's what prepping is about. So for example, let's say that in your local area, some kind of an event like this happens. Are you prepared in order to make it through the next harvest? Do you have enough put away to sustain you and your families until you recover from something such as this? That's what prepping is for, ladies and gentlemen, to get us from one side of the crisis to the end of the crisis so that we can be whole and be able to start over again. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining in today. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I am out.